All right. So when you think of Greek gods, I'm guessing Zeus is probably the first name that pops into your head, right? The king of the heavens. But today we're going to dive deep, pun intended, into the story of his brother, Poseidon. And trust me, calling him just the god of the sea doesn't even begin to tell the whole story.
Yeah, we all know the image. The big guy with the trident, ruler of the oceans. But what if that's just, the tip of the iceberg? That simple title? It barely scratches the surface. The reality is, Poseidon is one of the most complex, most compelling figures in all of Greek mythology.
And that's really what sets him apart from his brother, Zeus. Think about it. Zeus represents the sky, right? Orderly, predictable, up there. Poseidon's whole personality is his kingdom, the wild, chaotic, totally unpredictable ocean. He's this incredible force of creation, but he's also got this terrifying, destructive temper.
So, to really get a handle on a god this intense, we have to go way back to the beginning. And let me tell you, his story doesn't start in some grand palace. Nope, it starts in total darkness, a story of pure desperation and a father's absolute terror.
5. Just let that number sink in. 5. That's how many kids, Poseidon included, were swallowed whole by their own dad, the Titan Kronos. See, he was terrified of this prophecy, one that said he'd be overthrown by one of his own children. So he took, well, the most horrifying step you could possibly imagine.
So yeah, Poseidon's early life was basically a fight to exist. He gets rescued from inside his father by his youngest brother Zeus, and then boom, they're thrown into this massive war against the old gods, the Titans. After they finally win, the three brothers decide to divide up the cosmos by drawing lots. Zeus gets the sky, Hades gets the underworld, and Poseidon, he gets the vast, endless sea. I mean, talk about a perfect fit for his wild spirit.
Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. His power didn't just stop at the shoreline, not even close. He was in charge of two of the most fundamental forces in the entire ancient world.
This is his dual identity, right here. On one hand, you've got the master of the sea. With his trident, he could bring you calm waters or whip up a storm that would swallow your whole fleet. But then he was also the earth shaker. He could slam that same trident into the ground and trigger earthquakes that leveled entire cities. Think about that. He didn't just rule the water, he controlled the very ground beneath your feet.
And his power wasn't just about big, scary destruction either. It was woven into everyday life. I mean, the myths say he created the first horse right out of sea foam. That made him the patron god for horsemen and chariot racers. So whether you were a sailor out on the waves or a racer on dry land, you were in Poseidon's world. There was no escaping his influence.
But here's the thing about all that power. It came with a huge and honestly a very fragile ego. Poseidon could be generous, for sure, but his temper, legendary. It was incredibly volatile. And if you got on his bad side, well, you weren't just going to get an angry look. You were going to face his full, destructive wrath.
And there's no better story to illustrate this than the contest for Athens. So picture this. Poseidon and Athena are both vying to be the patron god of this new city. Poseidon, in a big show of force, strikes the ground and creates a saltwater spring. Cool, but not super useful. Athena, on the other hand, plays it smart. She plants an olive tree, a gift that provides food, oil, and wood. The people naturally chose her practical gift. And Poseidon, his pride was absolutely crushed. So what does he do? He throws an epic tantrum and floods the entire area. The message was crystal clear. You do not disrespect the king of the sea.
And believe me, that vengeful streak wasn't a one-off. Just ask Odysseus. After the hero blinded Poseidon's son, the Cyclops, the god of the sea made it his personal mission to make Odysseus' life a living hell. For years, he threw storm after storm at him, turning what should have been a short trip home into a decade-long nightmare. The lesson here? Poseidon never, ever forgot a grudge.
So what are we supposed to make of all this? How do you wrap your head around a god who gives life with one hand and just snatches it away with the other? A generous protector one minute and a terrifying, vengeful monster the next.
Well, maybe the best way to think about him isn't as a god in the way we usually think of them. Maybe he's better understood as a pure force of nature. Just like the ocean itself, he represents both creation and destruction. One day, the sea gives you a huge haul of fish. The next, an earthquake swallows your city. He isn't just like nature's duality. He is nature's duality.
So in the end, Poseidon was so much more than just a god with a short fuse. He was something way more primal. He was a perfect reflection of the raw, untamed, and beautiful world that he ruled. A world that could be wild and powerful and, yeah, absolutely terrifying all at the same time.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, doesn't it? If this ancient god really is the personification of nature's untamable power, what does our fascination with him, or even our fear of him, say about how we see our own planet today? In an era of climate change and increasingly wild weather, the story of Poseidon feels more relevant now than ever before.